You know, I kinda wish that we had the bomber battleships back in the day before implants and nanocores were in the game. I think these ships would have been a lot more fun back then than they are now. In any case, the bomber battleships have been buffed recently. And when I say buffed, if I remember correctly, they have gained a little bit more hit points, and at the same time, they also seem to have gained a little bit more mass. So it's not exactly just buffs. I would also say the extra mass is going to make the ships a little bit slower. So buff and kind of a nerf at the same time. But in any case, it just so happens that I have a Hyperion bomber. I think I have two of them. I don't know anymore, honestly. I have a bunch of ships that I bought lately. And I know I used a Hyperion bomber in the past. Maybe it's the same ship from the old videos. I don't know. But in any case, they are called bombers, but I would say they're definitely a lot closer to Marauders, although they're definitely not Marauder in the sense of being a Marauder. They're their own category, uh, and the main difference is that these ships can launch bombs. They have a bomb launcher like bombers, and that's pretty much where the name bomber battleships comes from. The Hyperion obviously will be an armor tank, although it also does seem to have some shield extender bonuses. Obviously, I would not recommend that you go with a shield extender built on a Hyperion bomber. That would be pretty cursed. You get fantastic repair on the ship, so you should definitely stick with armor. Now, I primarily use the Hyperion bomber as a camping ship. It's perfect for camps because it does have some very good range, and at the same time it has some pretty insane tank. Now, since I am not really sure if this is the same bomber that I showed in the last video, because I know I talked about pulling out rigs from the Battlegorn and adding those rigs in the Hyperion bomber. Since I wasn't able to sell my Battlegorn, unfortunately, I don't really think that I'll be ever able to sell that ship anymore, especially after the Azazel has been released. So the Hyperion bomber, at least this one, will not have the most ideal rigs. Now, when I say the most ideal rigs, the rigs in the Battlegorn are insane, and that ship is good, but it is getting outclassed by the Azazel, and my idea was to sell it, but obviously no one wants to buy a very expensive Battlegorn, so yeah, that ship stays, and that Isk is trapped. I have the option to just yeet it in the realm, but yeah, I don't like to yeet ships like that, so the ship just stays, and what I will do with this ship's built, I have no idea. But in any case, I like to use this ship for camping, and it's a very surprising, very good sniper, but at the same time it's also surprisingly good to be a good brawler with the same build. However, I would say the previous bomber did seem to perform, did seem to repair better, and I'm not really sure if that's because it had less armor. After all, I made sure that the ship has some decent beefy armor, and I also made sure that I have the same nanocore, the Burning Night nanocore, which is a event nanocore, and I would say that's probably the best tanking nanocore in the game, because it gives you a flat out repair bonus, which is insane, and when you combine that with a Hyperion hull, which already comes with repair bonuses, you do get a very scary ship. Now, let me just put back the blasters on this ship, because I just have a bunch of different builds. I try to see, you know, what kind of build to show today. I kind of wanted to go with the classic campy build, but you know what? I might as well go with blasters because I'll be using the blasters in the current video here. But yeah, this is usually what I roll on the Hyperion bomber: triple repair, 3 repairs, 2 adaptives and a damage control, dual Nosferatu, a scrammer and a web. Obviously the Citadel tactical module will be installed. And as you can see, the Citadel tactical module, or you know, you can call this the Bastion module, it's the same thing pretty much, but it gives you repair. The main thing will be the repair. You do have other stats, but the repair is, I would say, the main thing about the Citadel tactical module. Obviously you do get some other stuff, but when it comes to tanking and when it comes to the bombers in general, they're tanky repair ships designed to be used with an active tank, so obviously we will be focusing on the active tank part. This is the Burning Knight nanocore. It is golden, one of the very few nanocores that I actually bothered making gold, because for this nanocore and for this ship it was absolutely worth it. I had a lot of action with the Hyperion bomber in the past, made a bunch of PvP videos with it, and my experience with it was usually, I mean, I'm blown away by how good the ship performed back then, and now I would say the ship will perform even better. After all, it was buffed, hit point got buffed, and I also kind of put some more skills into battleships, and that should overall increase the overall hit point value of the ship. These are the rigs. Again, this particular ship is built in a cheaper way. However, at one point I want to make this particular ship a little bit more expensive, and maybe I will slap the more expensive rigs. But obviously first I need ISK. Before I can think about that, I need ISK. So that's kind of the future plan for the Hyperion bomber, at least for this ship. I don't know where my other one is. I should have 2 of them. But yeah, this Hyperion bomber is going to be built in a very similar way to the Balgorn, because those rigs on the Balgorn are simply, I would say, ideal for the Hyperion as well. Now, when it comes to how much resistance I have, it's not bad, but at the same time I'm also looking at the navies at the same time, and I'm kind of drawing a line between the navy and the bomber. The navy has resistance, and it can definitely be ridiculous tanky. I used to have a Tempest fleet with 98% resistance, or about that number, and that thing was a floating brick. It could take hits from a super capital pretty much. However, the repair on those ships was pretty much the same as the repair on any other ship. Now the bombers don't have the resistance, but they do have the repair power from the module, from the Citadel tactical module. And again, 96% and 4.2 million hit point with damage control is not bad. Unfortunately,
docking request accepted.
The damage control is not going to last nearly as long as the damage control on a navy, but it's not
Warp drive
a big
active.
deal. I mean, you do get some crazy repair, and you are able to tank a lot of hits if you build these ships properly. Now, most of the bomber battleships will be tanked. I don't know if I ever saw a DPS build bomber. I actually don't think I did, but I'm about to be proven wrong by the game in the next couple of days. That's usually what happens. Every time I say I haven't seen something, you know, the next day I see it, and the game just does that. It's Eve, you know. But so far, I haven't seen any DPS build bomber battleship. Most of the ships are always tanked and always tanky because they're meant to be tanked, which honestly does put them in a very interesting place. if you have the defense implant, if you have, I mean, if you have the thermal circulation implant, all that will benefit the Hyperion a lot. And again, the only reason why I'm flying the Hyperion is because of the Burning Knight nanocore. It just seemed like the best option, and I'm glad that I got that nanocore. That nanocore is old. When was the Burning Knight event? Like 2020, 2021? It was before implants, that's for sure. It was a long time ago, and I think to date this is one of the best nanocores that you could get in the game. At least for repairing. I mean, in PvP, tank will in most cases always win over DPS. I say in most cases, because not all tanky builds will be equally tanky. You have tanky builds that are just tanky, and you have tanky builds that are floating bricks. So there is quite a distinction between the different tanky builds. In any case, as I mentioned before, or maybe I didn't, in case I didn't, I've had quite a lot of combat experience in the Hyperion bomber. I used it in low sec, I also used it in null sec, and I figured out with the way I like to fly battleships, and usually when it comes to a tanky battleship, I go all in tank, I don't go in between. If a ship has a repair bonus, I go all ham on repair on that ship, and I sacrifice speed, I sacrifice propulsion to achieve the best possible tank. And so far with the Hyperion, that paid itself off quite nicely. The original Hyperion that I used, that ship also used this particular nanocore, and it survived every encounter that you can imagine. And this ship survived all encounters as well. The Hyperion bomber did have, I think I got jumped on 3 or 4 or 5 different occasions while flying the bomber, and this ship was able to effortlessly tank all of the encounters that I was exposed. We even tested the tank on a Hyperion versus a DPS built versatile assault ship carrier, to be more accurate, and it was able to hold out against a glass built carrier just fine. So that's what the ship was tested with, and I think it was also able to tank a dreadnought, a hubris or a moros, I forgot, but it was able to tank those things as well. So when it comes to tank, if you properly build the bomber battleship, they can take a lot of hits. And in some capital ship engagements, yeah, I'm not really worried about the Hyperion bomber. It can last for a very, very long time. Now, the beauty in armored tanking your ship is the fact that you can make it capacitor stable quite easily, and this is pretty much what this ship is right now. The Hyperion bomber is capacitor stable with all 3 repairs active, and with the booster module on, using 2 Nosferatus. Now, this is pretty much without any general unit for Nosferatus. I can further improve the capacitor stability with Nosferatus. I can also further improve the capacitor. I can further improve a lot of things on this ship. So getting capacitor stability is easy, and it is going to benefit the ship a lot, because in our case, in a smaller corp, in a smaller alliance, where you can't really afford to go glass because you will not have the logi, or even if you have the logi, maybe the amount of logi needed to repair your ship is not going to be enough. So you kind of need to be self-sufficient. Your ship needs to be able to take care of itself. And when I build my ships, I take that into account. again from my experience, I can't just run around with a poorly tanked ship and expect to last long. That's not gonna happen, obviously. Small corp, small alliance, you can't really risk flying a ship that's not prepared to take care of itself. So you need to be able, your ship needs to be able to handle a lot of different scenarios. Or to make it simpler, in simple terms, your one ship needs to be able to weight as much as 5 to 10 of the enemy ships, or the scaling depends on how many enemy ships you have. So your one ship needs to be worth as much as 5 or 10 of the enemy ships, in order to have an equal playing ground, or should I say equal fair battle. And this is kind of how my building philosophy in this game has been for quite a while. My ships, I know I will always be outnumbered, I know I'll always be outgunned, so I need to make sure that my ship can last and take all that damage in order to make it fair. And I also had the same philosophy with the Revelation, which actually, speaking of the Revelation, it saved that ship. If I didn't have the same build philosophy, that ship would have been toast. But the Revelation is still good. Yeah, that thing is still alive. That thing is still farming salt just by existing, by the way. So there's a good track record of these builds working. Obviously, are these builds going to be working in all scenarios? Obviously not. Again, one of the things that bugs me the most is the lack of propulsion on this ship. I dislike flying ships without an afterburner or a micro warp drive. I feel naked without those modules, so if I go full tank, that ship is going to be either a bait ship or a camping ship, and so far for that purpose they have been doing an amazing job. When I fly something that's designed to move around, then I do put some propulsion modules. I also do put some some DPS mods. Usually if I go and play a ship more actively, I don't go with a tanky build, because when you play actively, tank is not going to be that important. There is one ship that maybe is not going to follow that philosophy, and that will be the Enforcer, because I actually do like the tank on the Enforcer. And I actually have plans to use that ship as a cloaky tanked brawler Enforcer for hunting in null space, in null sec. For that purpose, the Enforcer might probably be the best ship. All the other cruisers that I fly, battle cruisers, they will probably be passively tanked and mostly focused on DPS, because for that aspect they seem to be working the best. Again, a lot of different builds will have a lot of different purposes, and obviously there is not going to be a single build that can cover everything. Now you can have, obviously, I'm not saying it's impossible to have a build that's going to cover most of the situations, but you can have one build that can do everything. You'll always have a hole here, a hole there. Might not be able to counter a certain ship, might be able to counter other ships, you need to know what your build can and can't do. I used to try and make universal builds in the past, and at one point with some ships, I have to admit, you can have universal builds, but those builds are not going to be working on all ships. There are some ships that can pull it off, some that can't, most can't. So at the end of the day, you need to know what you can do and what you cannot do with the build that you have at the time. Which sucks, but it is just how the game works. So if you're built to fight frigates, you will not be able to fight cruisers and battlecruisers. If you're built to fight battleships, you might not be able to fight frigates, and so on. The run boats are probably the only ship type, and obviously the one weapon type that kind of doesn't really follow the same rule, because you can just load small drones, eat small drones, eat medium drones, eat large drones. I mean, you can have a whole beehive in your ship. So yeah, there we go. Drone boats are kind of the exception to that rule, but most other ships are kind of following that specific rule. Now I will be doing something pretty stupid here. I will actually leave the ship to take hits. I will leave the ship to go to low armor, because I kind of want to see how much I'll be able to, how fast I'll be able to repair this Hyperion. Now I forgot how much armor my last Hyperion had, because I remember that thing was able to recover like a third of armor every cycle or something like that. Like it was able to recover a lot of armor. But you know, it was a slightly different build, maybe a bit more expensive build, you know. And on top of that, a nano core, and on top of that, I also think I had a little bit more expensive modules. And was my nano core gold at the time? I don't know. But one thing that's 100% sure, this Hyperion right here has a lot more armor hit points. Well, at least it should have a lot more armor hit points than the last one that I showed on video. Okay, 6 minutes is the capacitor time without the Citadel module, and with the module active it is capacitor stable. So pretty much as long as the enemy has capacitor, as long as I have fuel, the repairs will never stop, which is insane. You can actually make the capacitor better. This is, I would say, the lowest estimate, the lowest stability that you can get. If you want to get more stability, you can. You just need to change the rigs a little bit, and you can get a pretty, you know, pretty hard to shoot down battleship. Now we are getting to low armor, and again, this is quite risky because my internet is not the best. My internet can cut, and this ship can go boom, because obviously it has no stabs and my ships never warp. But I'm willing to risk for the test just to see how fast it can repair itself. I need to compare this repair speed and go back and look at my old repair speed on the previous Hyperion bomber, because I'm fairly sure the old one repaired faster. But at the same time, we also have to consider and take into account the difference in the armor volume, and we also have to take into account that this thing has a lot more armor than the previous one. Okay, that's not bad. 52. From 52 it jumps to 66, so it repairs about 9, 10, 11% every cycle. Okay, that's good to know. I mean, in all honesty, this is still some good repair. I would say this is still some very good repair. However, I feel like it does not repair as fast as the previous Hyperion. Again, could be just a, you know, it could just be the effect because of extra armor. It could very well be the case, but at the same time, there might be a bug. Maybe the Citadel module doesn't work, because I should repair 35,000 armor with the current build, but actually maybe that's actually the right value. Okay, yeah, I think that the numbers are matching up. Okay, so the armor volume makes the repairs kind of underwhelming. This is why I actually liked the previous Hyperion, because it didn't have a lot more armor, but it was able to repair it very quickly. and when you repair that, it felt satisfying. Not saying that this is bad. I think it's going to hold just good enough, I would say. I don't think I'll have problems with tanking with this ship, but I mean, if you have been following for a couple of years now, you probably know that when I'm not satisfied with tanking, I like to take things apart and do it again. So I guess this particular Hyperion bomber needs to go back to the drawing board again, and maybe I need to get those 4 P-rigs, which I don't really like to do, because let me tell you, they're expensive and I don't really fly this ship that often. So yeah, but I kind of want to see how much more repair I can get out of this, so I think I'll do it. Yeah, I think I'll just go and add some 4 P-rigs later on this, if I have use for it, that is. If not, I'll just have to sell some stuff and then add the rigs. But in any case, so Enforcer yeeted. Let's take a look at that. And oh, well, what a alrighty then. Adaptive armor harness and a shield extender. And I was talking about this on the very start of the video. Mixing armor, tank and a shield extender on the same ship. Not a good idea. In any case, we are nearing the end of the video. Tell me what you think about the bombers in general. Should they be renamed, or is the bomber class, you know, good enough and unique enough? In my eyes, I think I will personally not be able to unsee the Marauder in these ships, and in my eyes, these ships are Marauders. I mean, Marauders are tanky, and these things are definitely tanky as well. They feel like a Marauder, they act like a Marauder besides launching bombs, and in my eyes, they are definitely the Marauders of Eve Echoes. And well, with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. If you would like to support me, feel free to like and subscribe. And with that being said, stay safe, fly safe, and as always, I'll see you next time. And obviously, yeah, let's just finish up with the last ship here. I almost forgot that I was running a mission. I was carried away, but by myself here. Carried away by my own talking, but in any case,
Autopilot engaged.
Stay safe, and I'll see you next time.
Warp drive active.